Oh, dearie me. Not looking good for Drogheda United, is it, guys? Just going to share my thoughts on what's happened today. Obviously, I go through the statement that Drogheda United put out as well. It looks like they're not going to be playing European football this season, which is unbelievable. We're only a month or two away from actual, from playing in the competition, etc., etc. Drogheda United were due to play in the Conference League, of course, this season in the qualifiers after winning the FAI Cup last season, which was absolutely fantastic for the club. And the multi-club structure looks like it could hurt Drogheda United here. Of course, Trevala, who own Drogheda United, also own Walsall and also own Silkeborg, and that's where the problem is. Silkeborg only a couple of weeks ago have qualified for the Conference League qualifiers, and it looks like Drogheda are going to pay the price and not going to be involved in European competition. Why, you might say? Well, UEFA don't allow two clubs or more owned by the same owners in the same competition in Europe. I'll get onto that in a minute, actually. But first of all, Silkeborg qualified, as I mentioned before. They finished seventh in their league. Drogheda United finished ninth. So for that reason, Drogheda United are unlikely to be playing European football next season. Now, the killer here for me, from a League of Ireland fan and a Drogheda United perspective, is that Trevala only bought Silkeborg a few months ago, pretty much. They funnily enough, Silkeborg fans were against it, and we're having a go at Walsall, the whole model basically, and Treval, they didn't like it. But when Drogheda won the cup, which isn't too long ago, as we know, Treval actually didn't own Silkeborg at all. So this is an absolute killer for Drogheda United, and I'll get into the UEFA thing in a minute. But I just want to read out the statement, and you can make your judgment from this. But this is from Drogheda United. They sent this out today. This is the day I'm doing the video. The club can confirm that it has been notified by UEFA that we will face an expulsion from the UEFA Conference League due to Drogheda United and Silkeborg having both qualified for the same competition. This is despite significant efforts by the club to work constructively with UEFA to make necessary ownership and governance changes to allow both to compete over the past several months. Now, I'll just stop there for a second, actually, because that suggests to me that UEFA gave Drogheda United instructions that would allow them to play in European competition. But that seems to have not made a difference, which is interesting. Anyway, we are devastated by this potential development and believe it would be both harsh and unfair given the way brand new rule changes this year have been, in our view, inconsistently communicated and enforced across various clubs. Now, the bit I said I'll come back to later, that's the little bit I wanted to talk about, to be fair. And they are right there, Drogheda United, in fairness. I mean, this is the problem. Without going into too much of a tangent, but you wouldn't hear me talking about this too much because it hasn't really affected the League of Ireland. But, this is the problem where other clubs around Europe have had the same issue, yet they've been allowed to play in the same competition. Why is that, you might say? I'll tell you why: money, basically. So bigger clubs across Europe can find loopholes, and by finding loopholes, I mean, you know what I mean. I won't even mention it. But this is the bit that annoys me, let's say, in regards to the UEFA point of view, is that they've allowed and turned a blind eye at other situations across Europe. I mean, there's going to be more clubs being owned under this model. Why are you telling me like that you're going to have no teams in European competition? You're going to banish 10 teams. That doesn't happen, strangely enough, does it? No, it doesn't. But there's other clubs, bigger clubs, let's say, with a lot more money in Europe that have been let take part in European competition while they're sister clubs, for want of a better word, have been also allowed to take part. So make of that what you will. Back to the statement. We are now appealing the decision to the Court for Arbitration for Sport, which is known as CAS, a lot of people know. Given we are now in the midst of an ongoing legal proceeding, and out of respect for that process, UEFA, the CFCB, and the overall aim of sporting integrity, there are limits to what we are able to share at this time. That's understandable. In fairness to the club, though, before I move on again, I think they've been fairly quick to send out statements, even a couple of weeks ago when they said that there basically could be a problem here. You know, a lot of other clubs might have just said nothing in that case, so at least they've been very transparent with their fans, I have to say. What we can say is this: we're even at this late hour fighting to do anything and everything we can to secure our players, supporters and community's place in Europe. We have been in active dialogue with UEFA for months. They mentioned that a couple of weeks ago in their statement as well. They've put forward a shared disposition trust arrangements of various other undertakings consistent with recent CFCB precedent. You might ask the question, why have all those efforts been rebuffed? It seems to me they've said, and they've said this twice really in the statement, pretty much in different words, but that they've worked with UEFA and followed the instructions that UEFA have offered them to essentially be able to take their place in Europe, and yet UEFA have rebuffed this. Interesting. Let me know what you think there. Nevertheless, we look forward to the opportunity to be heard at CAS, and thank you in advance for your support to Drogheda United Football Club Board. My fear would be here that Drogheda United are seen as a small club by UEFA and even by CAS, to be honest with you. That there's nothing to see here. No big deal. But if it was a bigger club with financial power, it might be a bit different. I hope it works for them, and fair play to Drogheda United for keep going at this, keep going, because it is very disappointing. I'll come back to the fans, supporters, community bit as well, because I mean, if you're a fan looking forward to win the cup is brilliant, but looking forward to going to Europe or going on trips or just being in European competition, to have this situation is very disappointing for a fan. If you're a fan of Drogheda United, actually, let me know what you think in the comments. How are you actually feeling right now? Who are you blaming? What's to blame? You know, the bigger fish you are in European football, the better chance you are, and the more financial muscle you have, the better chance you have of getting through these scenarios, let's say. And this is my problem with UEFA generally. You know what I mean? I mean, if they really, really, really wanted to go by the rules, there could be 7 or 8 teams not in Europe, for example, this season. Crystal Palace are in a current situation. I'd be very surprised if Crystal Palace aren't in Europe next season. Extremely surprised. The Premier League club, etc., etc. Again, I could be wrong, but I'm just saying I'd personally be very, very surprised there. And the whole thing is disappointing. I think the disappointing thing for me is the fact that Drogheda United, as I come back to this, did win the cup before Travala even took over Silkeborg. And do you blame Travala a little bit here? Maybe, maybe not. I'm still looking at UEFA more so. I'm not mad about the multi-club scenario myself because of this type of situation. You know, Walsall, you kind of go, all right, fine, because they're kind of, look, they're in League, I think they're in League 2, correct me if I'm wrong, if not, they're in League 1. I should have checked that up, actually. But still, they're not near a European competition scenario. And let's be honest, they're unlikely to be anytime soon. But when you're acquiring clubs from any league, top league in Europe, as in top flight league in Europe, there's a chance that you could be in the same competition in Europe. So yeah, it's just very disappointing. I hope it goes well for Drogheda. I'm a bit concerned by it personally, but there's nothing else I can say in this, to be honest with you. It's just very disappointing. Hopefully it goes well for them. Let me know what you think in the comments. Very important. I want to know what you think, especially if you're a Drogheda United fan. Please subscribe if you haven't, and thanks for watching. Bye bye.